Why do I have a timer set for 7:26? It's Christmas music. Oh, it's a timer for my Jell-O! Hey, thanks for joining the Escape With Me Book Club's Patreon. Escape with me, Lizzie Sawyer.
And me, Sam Reiner.
Come with us as we evade reality and go into details comparing a book to its movie. We're going to be discussing both. Well, in this case, all 3 and 4 kind of ish, but not really. From beginning to end, so remember, there will be spoilers.
Yeah, we'll talk about the one, so it counts.
Yeah, 4-ish, kind of, but not really.
Today we are looking at Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase. Originally published in 1930, Nancy's second mystery has captured the minds of cinema for decades, sharing the name with movies from 1939 to more recent 2019 adaptations. From using the name who follow a completely different plot to faithfully modernizing it for the audience, these movies are all over the place. And we're going to talk about all of them.
Yes, indeedy.
So the fun fact about this is we couldn't get 1939. It's Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase is the name, but it's part of the Nancy Drew Reporter trilogy from the 1930s. And it makes me a little sad because Nancy Drew Reporter is free, and it's actually a pretty good 1939 movie, if you ask me. The cast is really good. They have pretty decent writing. I enjoyed it. It's definitely 30s style, but that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, I have never seen that one, ever.
Yeah, it's an hour, 8 minutes, which is pretty standard. And the weird thing is, okay, so this is where it kind of separates. It has a very mixed perception in its audience because while it has a 6.8 on IMDb and like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, it also has a 93% on Google.
What?
Yeah, make sense of that for me. There are very, very few critics talking about it. That's all fans right there. But the only few criticisms I saw of it was the cast is wonderful, as always, but the writing is just boring, and it's a bunch of scenes that drag on for way too long, and to them they were like, this is a sad ending to a really good trilogy of movies, but it kind of showed to them that the studio was running out of ideas. But yeah, so I can't tell you if it's good or bad. I have not seen it. The audience does not have a consensus on whether this is good or bad. It exists. And if you want to watch it, you need to buy the $50 trilogy pack from Amazon because it is streaming nowhere. And I don't know why.
Copyright.
But here's some fun things about the trilogy. So her boyfriend is Ted, not Ned. Is Ted. Just to mess with everybody, I guess. I don't know why they did that. And it bugs me through the entire movie. Because, like I said, I've been able to see the first one because that one's streaming. And we meet him in the first movie. He is Nancy's neighbor. And Nancy's been accused of a murder. And so Ted and Nancy team up. And then they get romantic feelings. And so by the third movie, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. And while everyone says it has nothing to do with the book, when you read the synopsis, it sounds like it does. Amateur Nancy Drew determined to rope her boyfriend Ted, I hate that, into helping her investigate the strange occurrences that elderly sisters Rosemary and Floretta, which is really close to Flora, Turnbull, and so they're sisters instead of mom and daughter, have an experience in their Victorian era house. Then the Turnbulls are accused of murder, and Nancy must act quickly to save the sisters from jail and discover who's been breaking into their house. So it sounds like it has a lot to do with it, because it's like, hey, mysterious people breaking it in, and then you throw in this murder plot, but apparently it mainly focuses on the murder plot, and then there is a bunch of comedy scenes that don't really mesh in unless you're into those comedy scenes, because like I said, this has a 93 on Google, and that's really all I can say about it. All of my research that I've put into this, it basically, this is the third one in the trilogy, not the favorite, don't know. Some people really like it, some people do not like it, but the fact of the matter is this was the third one and the last one. We don't have any metrics on sale or box office or anything like that, so can't even tell you if it's sold poorly in comparison. That's all I can say about it. That is the 1939 version. Other than the fact that Ted bugs me as the name so much. And now some of the movie pictures, Ned is bigger than Nancy because she's not behind him, but doing the 1930s scared girl thing, even though she's the braver of the two, I would argue.
Yes, let's have the hero hide behind the boyfriend.
Even though it's her name on the title, I don't know.
Yeah, nowhere in any of the books / games has she ever...
Yeah, it's just the movie posters, though. Because in the movie, she's pretty cool. She's really cool in the movies, actually. I recommend. If anyone hasn't seen Nancy Drew Reporter and is a fan of Nancy Drew, I think you'll enjoy it. It's a good cast. I don't know anything about this movie though, and I'm really sad. We worked so hard to try to find.
You worked so hard. I put no effort in.
I worked so hard to find it, and I don't have $50 to drop on this trilogy. That's just what it came down to. So there we go. That's the 1939's movie that we promised to talk about. We even delayed recording a little bit. I've delayed recording a little bit trying to find this, but it's okay. Alas. If you've seen it, please comment and tell us all about it and whether you love it or hate it and why you love it or hate it, because I want to know what is so divisive in this movie. But anyway, that brings us to 2007.
Ha this train wreck. This is going to be a fun conversation.
Oh my gosh, this was weird. This is the first time I've seen the movie since 2007. Because it came out around my birthday, and so that was my birthday party. Me and a bunch of girls I knew went and saw the Nancy Drew movie.
And just so you know, one of those girls that went to go see the Nancy Drew movie, which was not me.
Yeah, we hadn't met yet.
Yep, not yet. We were not friends yet.
Let's see. I think we're still in elementary school. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's what we get for going to different elementary schools. Though I don't think we were friends until high school anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair assumption.
The day I threw up pears, that was the day we became friends.
Yeah, it was the bridge between school friendship, which I consider to be akin to a coworker friendship, and then an actual friendship.
Yes.
So yeah, at the time, people were giving Emma Roberts a hard time for starring in this movie, and I didn't understand the hatred she got about it.
Now you do.
I think she just came out of whatever TV show it was. I loved that TV show, by the way. Unfabulous.
Never saw it.
Oh, I loved it. It was a good, maybe it was a Nickelodeon show? Yeah, it was a Nickelodeon show. I always liked Emma Roberts, mainly because, like I said, I watched her on Fabulous, and I thought she was great, and then I saw her in this movie, and I thought she was great. And honestly, if anything, might have been one of the highlights of this movie. The script was crap, and some of her co-hosts were crap, but I think she did a pretty good job. If she came back for some reason, and she was like, you know what, I would love to play Nancy Drew, I would not be mad. I think she's got the look and the cuteness, and she plays the innocence pretty well. I think she's adorable, and I love it. Everyone else in this movie needs to shove off, though.
Yep, everyone else in this movie needs to shove off. This whole movie just needs to shove off.
Oh my gosh.
This movie needs to not be real.
Oh, goodness. And I kind of included this as a flub. I messed up because I was like, oh, this was a Nancy Drew Hidden Staircase movie. And technically, no, it's just called Nancy Drew.
It's a haunted mansion movie.
Yeah, it's a mixture of a couple of the first early books, because it's like, oh, there's a will, but then there's also Secret Staircase. So it's a mixture. So I guess it still kind of counts because it is still kind of Hidden Staircase. But so this movie
is a piece of trash, yes.
This movie. So I think it was attempting to modernize it, because sometimes it's poking fun at the Nancy Drew is so perfect and whatever. But I can't wonder but thinking, what were they doing? What the heck? Why are we putting marketing? Simon and Schuster, you have a hard enough letting anyone use Nancy Drew, but you okayed this?
Yes.
So it starts off with a situation from the first book in which Nancy is hiding in a wardrobe. The people are stealing stuff, which, can we talk about the random cameo? Jimmy Fallon just randomly shows up as one of the thugs.
We got Jimmy Fallon for this movie.
That was weird. That was a weird cameo. He just popped up. Either he was really popular in 2007 or he was hitting a low. I'm not sure which one constitutes him getting into this movie.
Neither.
So that was really cool. She sneezes and it alerts him. That was a cool callback to Nancy Drew 1. She then talks them out of it? Question mark?
Yeah.
She's just basically like, hey, I know everything going on and I can get you a plea deal. And they were like, okay. And then lemon bar, which can we talk about how the powdered sugar on this stupid lemon bar, which she totally turned upside down in this way and that, but it's perfect. It's fine. I'm angry about that.
The power of a sugary snack.
Anti-gravity container that she holds, which I guess that's what Nancy Drew has now.
It has magical treats in it, apparently, because we'll release you, small child. You gave me sugary treat of magic that convinced me that we were friends.
And they take the time for her to go over all the crap in her little kit that we never see again.
I have all these tools. I don't use them, but I have all these tools.
And then they're like, okay, and she's on the phone with Chief McGinnis talking about that. And then freaking Ned shows up
and tells her about a dream.
And Chief McGinnis Dennis is totally cool handing the phone
No.
to Ned during this hostage negotiation, and Ned's just like, hey, I had this dream. And he starts talking about his dream, and then Nancy's, rightfully so, is like, Ned, can we not? And he's like, okay. And then he hangs up the phone. He doesn't give it back to Chief McGinnis. He hangs up the phone. And then Carson shows up and walks up to Chief McGinnis and is like, I need to talk to Nancy. And Chief McGinnis is like, oh, you can. And I go over there like, yeah, Ned hung up the phone. Can't call her back, I guess.
Heaven forbid. I mean, even if he did pick up the phone, just by the way this movie's going, he's gonna be like, Nancy, you didn't do the laundry or something like that, you know?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I also made a note of this because he mentioned he had a dream, and it wasn't from a nighttime dream. He had a nap and he took a dream. And then Bess got offended. She was like, you take naps? I'm like, who doesn't take naps?
Me.
I don't get that sentiment.
I don't get offended when other people do take naps, but I don't take naps.
But it's such a normal thing. I can't believe anyone, even in 2007, someone was like, you take naps? Who thought of that line?
Whoever wrote this movie.
Oh my gosh. And so I don't know what building this is. I think it's a church, but it's a ridiculously huge one for Tiny River Heights.
It's almost like a church/community center. With the office and the security guards, it's like a church building with a community center.
It's massive though, because just the chapel is massive.
It could be a mega church, but I mean, she gets outside and it doesn't seem that big because it's a small town. So what warrants a building that big?
I don't know. It's apparently a Catholic one too, because they have all of the saints and then they have statues and stuff. But something I noticed this time around that I didn't, of course, notice the first time, because the first time I'm like, oh my gosh, Nancy, you have to escape, whatever. No, she didn't.
No.
She walks off before the crooks have the conversation about potentially getting cold feet, and then the crooks freak out because Nancy disappeared and she's their ticket out of there, and so they start searching for her, and I'm just like, why did you run away, Nancy? You made this 10 times harder by doing that. You didn't need to do any of this.
Because she has to fall off the roof, duh.
Oh my gosh. And then, yes, that part where she's hanging down from the gutters and it's bending to the weight.
Yeah, this gutter can definitely hold my weight. Yep.
And then so their solution is, oh, it can't hold my weight. I'm gonna clip something, like a clip and a rope, and then use that to get down, and now it can suddenly take my weight.
No, that is no.
This isn't how physics works, guys.
What is physics, though? What is physics really? Science isn't real. The world is flat. Physics isn't real. It's all made up. There is no gravity. The world's just continuously going upwards.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we're off to a great start, obviously. So Nancy's dad is mad. He's like the stern parental figure, which I always hate when Nancy Drew movies do that, because it's like, oh, parents just don't understand.
Nowhere in the books is Carson ever actually concerned for his daughter.
Even in the 1950s, which does make Carson more of a figure in it, because like in the 1930s, it's like, oh, she had a gun, she had to do it herself and whatever. So even when the 1950s calmed it down a little bit, whether for good or bad is up for debate, but even when that calmed it down, Carson was like, yeah, let's do this together. We got this. Be safe, but you do you, girl. So I always hate that. It's a dumb stereotype, and
Chill out, Carson.
And then we get this conversation where they're like, oh, that's right. We need to remind the audience that Nancy's mom is dead. And they're like, hey, Nancy, when will you be back? And she's like, don't worry, I'll be back in a couple of months. And then immediately following that, someone's like, you're the spitting image of your mother. Do you remember her at all?
Harry, you have your mother's eyes. You look just like your dad and you have your mother's eyes. And he's like, thank you. I'm aware my parents are dead.
I know. Who in their right mind comes up to somebody and is like, hey, you just did this. You're moving. Do you remember your dead mother?
Yes, thank you. I am aware that my family member is dead. I appreciate the reminder. How kind of you.
Oh my gosh.
I definitely needed this right now. High stress situation followed by a reminder that my family member that I loved dearly is dead. Yes.
And that I don't remember her? Thanks. Oh my gosh. They pose for a picture, which later on they print the picture, which is not the picture they took.
Why would it be?
That would make sense.
You want the movie to make sense?
And then she goes in her car to go somewhere. Carson leaves with her. And then they decide to say this prayer because small town USA, I believe it. And it's the same guy who was like, do you remember your mom? He offers a prayer, and he's basically like, bless Nancy Drew for being able to solve cases that the cops can't. And then all the cops around him just look at him. And that was probably the funniest moment of the movie. I loved that.
I mean, he's not wrong, though.
He's not. It was so funny. And then Chief McGinnis just looks over like, hey, what the heck, man? So yeah, the only true funny moment in the entire movie, other than things that weren't supposed to be funny, but I found very funny.
I will fully admit that the bits that you found funny, I probably hit the skip 30 seconds button for.
True. So Nancy Drew and Carson are going to LA because money.
Carson has a new job because he's a lawyer and can't lawyer in small town River Heights anymore.
No, he literally is just doing it for the money. And Nancy's like, I thought we help people. And Carson's like, yeah, but money.
Yeah, but money.
You're able to allow your teenage daughter to pick a mansion for the two of you to rent in LA?
Yeah.
And you're worried about money. Clearly, you're doing really well. The cost of living in River Heights is not nearly as big as LA. I want to see what your house looks like, okay?
Yeah, several times in my notes, I wrote, rich people be rich.
Yeah, rich people problems. It's bad.
Aw, is this a rich person problem? Aw.
And so, per mid-2000s, parents just don't understand. He wants Nancy to be normal.
Nancy, you can't do mysteries anymore. At all.
And for some reason, Nancy internalizes that, which this time around did not make sense. Maybe if you actually have children or you study the children's mind, it makes sense when an adult's like, hey, you can't do this, and an obedient child is like, that's all I need to not do this. But it was dumb. It was very dumb. It was such a setup for you're not like other girls. They use the line, you're not like other girls in this, and I hate it.
I'm not like other girls. My parents don't understand me.
Oh my gosh. So Bess and George, maybe, I don't know. They don't ever say anything, really. So they're like, well, that's not gonna last. But I also don't get that Carson's like, you need to be a normal teenager when she has two really good friends and a boyfriend. I think she's doing great for a teenager.
So something I didn't understand in this movie is why they felt the need for Nancy to be perfect.
The only thing I can think on that was it was a play on the 1950s. Nancy Drew is so perfect. My problem with that is theoretically, when you watch a movie, you want your main character to have an arc of some sort of character development.
They need to have some sort of flaw that they then overcome.
Yeah, and so theoretically, that would be her thing. Oh, she doesn't know how to normal teenager. Nancy, if you want to survive in this world, you need to learn how to normal we need to Elle Woods this. She was this bubbly sorority girl, goes to law school, becomes a lawyer, and a bubbly sorority girl. You can do both kind of thing. So it's like, oh, you can be perfect, but you can be a normal. No, everyone around her has to learn that Nancy is perfect and not like other girls. So all the children watching will be like, I can be myself. No, this is dumb.
I don't have to adapt. Everybody else around me has to adapt. Let me tell you, friend, if everybody in a room is maybe you're the one that needs to take a look at themselves.
I hated it because I'm not like other girls. She doesn't have problems with, we'll get into some characters I wish she had problems with, but she has no problem with anyone ever, even for the quote unquote wild teenage party. Like, she's fine.
I mean, she has bullies.
Sort of, but then she makes friends with anyway.
Is it really making friends or more like they just kind of follow her around and she's really indifferent to them?
Yeah. Ned gives her a compass for her birthday that I don't actually think comes up ever again, so that's cool.
Nope, she never uses it. We never see it again. It just kind of is.
And then when she's leaving town, apparently her and Ned haven't established that they're a thing, which I don't think they do a really good job of setting up.
Nope.
It's too vague. And then on the way out of town, she says, Chief McGinnis, I'm not sleuthing anymore. And Chief McGinnis is like, ha, Nancy Drew, not sleuthing. And that basically sets up the entire, like, we could have ended the movie there. I'm not gonna sleuth anymore. Yeah, right. Credits. So Carson Carson's in the middle of this phone call when he almost runs over the realtor, and then he doesn't hang up. Anyone else notice that?
And she's not like, slow down, stop. She's like, you pay attention when you're on the phone, right?
Yeah, she's like, you shouldn't be talking on your phone, Dad. And he's like, why not? Almost runs into Lady standing in the middle of the street.
And he's like, why? She's like, because of the person in the road? Be reasonable, Nancy.
But yeah, he's on the phone, actively talking to someone, almost hits someone, and he lowers the phone. He doesn't hang up. He doesn't say bye. We're just gonna leave that there. Guess it wasn't that important of a phone call. I guess Barbara's a joke. I don't know. I don't get the joke. Maybe it was a 2007 thing.
Haha, parents, so oblivious. Almost hitting people with their cars.
Well, I just meant her as a person. I feel like she says things and it's like, haha, she's supposed to be a funny character, but it's just a woman in her 40s, 50s, wearing leopard print, kind of pretentious, but other than that, where's the joke? I don't get it. Okay. Anyway, at some point she's like, oh, we can't find anything else here in your price range. And I'm like, you are renting
A mansion.
a famous actress's mansion.
We don't have anything this rich and fancy for you, sir.
Go get a 2-bedroom apartment. I'm so confused.
He can't stay in a 2-bedroom apartment. Not with the money he makes. Rich people be rich.
Which is another thing, because technically I feel like half the time he's like securing a job. So he doesn't even have a job there and he's just wasting money. And I'm just stay in River Heights. I'm confused.
You don't even go here.
You don't even go here. Nancy's only there for a couple months. That's going to be worse for her education, honestly.
I mean, apparently she doesn't need to learn anything because she's perfect at everything. So why does she even in school?
That is the question, isn't it? She doesn't even take notes. She just knows.
I mean, she's clearly not very good at making friends. So what is the point?
Honestly, Nancy, the one that they portray in the movie, not in the books, is someone who would have dual enrolled when she first started high school and been done with college by now, basically.
Yes.
Okay, so answer me this. The mansion that they rent is this dead actress's. And so it's a ghost theme and it just has a bunch of booby traps everywhere.
Have you noticed that we don't see much of the booby traps after the initial booby trap?
Oh yeah, of course I noticed that. First of all, that was great. Awesome. Cool. Just throwaway gag, I guess.
Ha ha, there's a booby trap here. Ha 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 ha. All right, we're never going to talk about this again.
Who decided to booby trap the house with haunted things?
Probably the realtor, if I had to guess.
But she doesn't own the property. She's just real estate. I'm so confused.
I would blame the realtor.
Anyway.
Who does own the property? Do they ever talk about who actually owns the property?
No! We just know the groundskeeper hates it.
It'd have to be the evil businessman at the end, right? He would have to be the one to own it, right?
I don't know. The daughter gets willed it.
Yeah.
But you would have to fight whoever actually owns it right now. Does the lawyer own it? Is that what we're implying?
I think so. And he went to jail, so...
Yeah, because he was, oh, I'm changing my will, so it's not all about you, random manager. And I guess the lawyer owns it. Cool. I think we answered our own question. Watch it be wrong, even though that would make sense. Nancy lays out her case file because, shock and surprise, the house has a mystery and that's the whole reason she rented it. And so she has this case file. She lays it down on her bed. She goes to the door to ask her dad something, doesn't get it, walks back. It's implied that someone from the secret passageway came in, stole the stuff, and left. That secret passageway is noisy. It has crystal chandeliers and gears turning, and when she opens it, it is so loud. So I'm guessing what actually happened was someone was hiding under the bed.
That would be my guess.
That's my guess.
Which is creepy.
Yes, it's very creepy, but logic. And then Nancy calls the phone and they're like, ha ha, a small town girl just doesn't understand. And so that happens. It's like, yeah, it's supposed to be a gag, but I'm over here like, Carson let that happen to Nancy. At no point was Carson like, hey, Nancy, this is a big town. They're not going to focus. No, he was like, no, I'm totally comfortable with my teenage daughter staying on hold with this police department for hours and then wasting both of their times because they're like, no, we're not going to come out and investigate your missing shoes. And then Carson's like, well, what you gonna do? He lets that happen to her.
Yep. He's like, oh, there was a theft in our house? Well, oh well. How is that an oh well situation, Carson? There was a strange person in your abode.
Exactly. Okay, either he thought it didn't happen and then he would be like, Nancy, don't call the police about this, or he totally believed it happened and so she should call the police, but he does nothing to ensure their safety. He doesn't even move her out of the room that is haunted.
Or he did that thing that parents think is a good idea where he didn't think it happened and he lets her call the police so they can laugh at her so she can learn a lesson, which is also not great.
Yeah. So Nancy tries to focus on not sleuthing now that she doesn't have her case folder, and she reads a book called Advanced Castle Building, and I want to know who wrote this. Who sat down and wrote Advanced Castle Building? She never goes to the beach, by the way, so that was a waste, but she reads a book called Advanced Castle Building, and I'm like, who sat down, wrote this book, sold it, so it was published? It's 2007, okay? What? Okay, Nancy. And then she hears noises, and she decides it's an appropriate reaction to then use her phone, call Leshings. This is in the middle of the night. I think it's 11 p.m., 12 p.m., maybe in the early morning. I can't remember at this point. But she seriously calls this dude middle of the night. He's totally asleep. He wakes up. You can tell he's groggy on the other end. Leshings, I needed to confirm your whereabouts. Go back to sleep. Hangs up.
Of course he's gonna come over.
Well, not even that, but imagine, because he's already said, I hate that this is getting rent out. I hate all my renters. And then that night, middle of the night, you get woken up and you're like, what? Is there an emergency? Is there a fire? Concern? Leshings, I just needed to confirm your whereabouts. Go back to sleep. Hang up. So this is where Nancy starts hearing weird noises, and then Leshing, of course, pops up mysteriously fast. And so he's like, oh, is there hidden passageways? But for some reason, Leshing, she's like, oh, I thought I saw a ghost. And Leshing's like, I am a ghost.
Like, what are you talking about? I'm not here.
Why? Why would he do that? That never comes up again.
Nope.
And then he's rude to Carson to his face. I hate renters. And it's like, yeah, ain't that cool? That's the renter person. You might get fired for that. You realize, okay, cool.
He's been with the family for generations.
So Carson is in like, we should stay at a hotel. You keep hearing weird noises. This is weird. And Nancy's like, no, you hate hotels. Why? He's literally talking about going to a Four Seasons.
Rich people be rich, man.
What do you have to complain about hotels for there? Oh, it lacks personality? Who cares? You're at the spa. He's even like, we could have a spa day. And Nancy's like, nope, we can't do that. You don't like hotels. And Carson's like, foiled again. So they stay in the house.
Rich people be rich.
And then Nancy internalized everything. And she's like, oh, mystery solving was just a phase. Like this whole thing was her idea instead of her dad being like, don't do this anymore.
Oh, honey, that's such a boomer thing to say. It's just a phase. It's not a phase, Mom.
Don't even get me started on some of the fashion trends Nancy decides to wear.
We're not going to talk about it.
The plastic.
No, we're not going to talk about it. We have a whole other movie after this movie to talk about. We do not have time to talk about some of the stuff in this movie.
That's true. But I don't know. There's so much in this movie. We'll get to the other one, but there's so much more in this movie. Anyway, she wears plastic clothes at one point, and I hate it.
It's the 50s.
So Nancy finally goes to school, and she is both the athletic, nerdy, word-working thespian that everybody hates, I guess. A mean girl steals her cupcake at lunch. Oh no!
So I took issue with the shot of the lunch table that's just covered. It's just littered in absolute trash and garbage. And I have never in my life been to a high school where that is a norm.
Nope. Teenagers, man, as according to 50-year-old men.
We're not. We're like I'm still a teen. It's not. We're not. It's not. It's no.
It's not. It's just not. Yeah. And then there's, of course, the scene where her little brother runs up and apparently has a crush on Nancy, which don't even get me started on that. But he runs up. He's like, hey, you should give her the cupcake back. And then the older sister puts frosting on his face, but then there's a shot of them walking all the way and the cupcake isn't touched. Where did you get the frosting?
It's an afterthought.
And then Nancy decides after one day of school she's going to go to the principal with a list of her demands. I can't. And then there's a basketball game. None of these scenes make any sense next to each other.
It's high school.
I'm actually surprised the Mean Girls showed up to this event. They seem like the type that wouldn't be into school spirit, but cool. Nancy doesn't even wear school colors.
And then the brother kid starts choking. And do you know what they do? Do you know what they do? They have her do CPR. Because that is what you do for a choking person is you perform CPR.
Yeah. That was the whole point of the principal scene was the Mean Girls find out that she does CPR. And they're like, hey, little brother, pretend to be choking. And then they'll be like, can someone do CPR? Can someone do CPR?
And she does it. You know how to do CPR. You know you don't do CPR. And if they trained you on CPR, they also trained you on the Heimlich maneuver. And you would know to use the Heimlich maneuver instead of CPR, my child. It is all in the same class. I took that class. I know.
The funnier thing is she does a CPR and it works. The food comes out.
Well, he's not really choking. Also, you wouldn't do mouth to mouth first. You always start with compressions.
I think she started doing compressions. The food came out. He didn't come back. And then she was going to do mouth to mouth. And I'm like, you didn't check his pulse or his breathing or or any of this, but okay.
Also, if you're doing CPR correctly, you have broken his ribs.
Yep.
You would have been much better off doing the Heimlich maneuver. I guarantee you.
And then another glorious display of 50-year-old men knowing what teenagers are like. She saves his life. She does get the food out of his mouth, but she's like, oh, you were supposed to kiss her. And then the entire auditorium laughs.
Yeah.
Ha ha ha, you saved someone's life. Ha ha ha, dummy.
He wasn't really choking, though.
I know he wasn't, but still, I don't understand what was funny. It didn't make sense. So because high school is crap, she decides to go back to sleuthing, which apparently means scrapbooking.
Isn't that how you sleuth? By making a scrapbook? I know every time I play a Nancy Drew game, I make a scrapbook.
And she does a scrapbooking thing of where it looks cool, but also you can't read most of the things because they're all overlapping. This is actually not helpful.
Nope, you do better pinning them to a wall with string.
And then, of course, she finds a screen room where she somehow knows how to fix a projector.
She's perfect. Don't question the perfect child of perfect.
And then the actress has her own film outtakes in her house.
Yeah.
Not at the studio, in her house.
Sure.
And then we get the world's most wooden "What Are You Doing?" from the amazing Leshings, who clearly wanted to be there. And then Nancy spouts her wisdom of, she never married, but there must have been someone she loved. No. I thought that was the whole point of what he made, is men fell in love with her, but she didn't love them back.
Why do you think that? Why does she have to love anybody? Why is that a necessity here? She probably didn't love him. I mean, she obviously did bear his child, but that was accidental.
I think at the end it's implied she did love him, and then it was just stuff in consequence. But at the same time, it was like, she had to love someone. No, she didn't. That is not a life requirement, Nancy. But I do like the cute teases of several of the films she starred in were named after Nancy Drew books. That was cute. But some of the movies that Nancy watches were flops from the 70s. Why were all of her movies in black and white? This is the 70s. We had color at this point.
What? No. Outrageous. Never. Unheard of.
So... we have to talk about stupid Corky. I hate him with a burning passion.
Yeah, the awkward kid that, for whatever reason, thinks he's going to get with Nancy, even though he's very clearly much, much younger. He's supposed to be comedic relief, but he's just a side of cringe.
Yeah, he doesn't help whatsoever.
And not even really good cringe, just kind of...
not.
That kid that follows you around and says stupid, ignorant things, and you're like, I mean, I let you hang out with me because you're nice, and every now and again you say something mildly funny, but if you could go home now, that would be fantastic.
He makes me so mad, honestly. I hate him with a burning passion. He's this dumb little 12-year-old who doesn't do anything. He's not funny, and I don't blame the actor for this. Let me get this out there. The actor's fine. It's the script. I am mad at the script writers. I am mad at the directors and every adult involved with this film. I hate him. He's not funny. He's not smart. He's in high school even though he's 12, not because he's smart, but because there was no action in middle school, which, first of all, I went to middle school. That is not true, but continuing, you're having a much better chance with other 12-year-olds, child.
It's LA, so I doubt this is the case, but I know in some areas, the middle school and the high school are the same school.
Yeah, but he makes it sound like he went up so there would be more quote-unquote action. But if he's in the same building, he would have access to the same people.
You know, kiddo, I doubt the teachers allowed that. I really highly doubt that that is an actual feasible thing that the teachers allowed to happen, my guy.
Yeah, and the principal, he pulled some strings. What did he, it's just dumb.
Did he cry to daddy until daddy threatened the principal? Is that what happened?
I have no idea. It's dumb. It's so dumb. So yeah, he's not even smart and contributing to this mystery. He just follows her around and sexually harasses her.
Yes.
The entire time. And then Nancy doesn't ever say anything to him because she has to be the nice girl. And nice girls aren't mean to boys, even when they make them uncomfortable. Because if you are mean to a boy, you're not nice anymore. And that's the most important thing Nancy Drew can be. Or any girl, apparently.
Hello, old men. Get the f*** out.
Oh my gosh.
Stop writing for little girls.
Yes, all of that. And then you throw in stupid Ned, who is jealous of this 12-year-old.
Nice guys are dumb.
Straight up, Nancy's like, I'm sorry, Corky, we can't be a thing because there's this boy back in River Heights. And then Ned shows up and Corky's like, she's never mentioned you. And Nancy at no point is like, yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did. This is the guy.
But she can't contradict a boy that's being creepy towards her because then she's not nice.
Heaven forbid. Nancy, how did you ever manage to solve a mystery without a man's help?
They don't do anything. Her and Ned are so cute when they work together. Why was this not the movie? I'm mad. Why did we have this little punk sexually harassing our main character? And then Ned shows up and is jealous. And then the mean girls are like, I want to get with Ned, but never actually does anything to try to get with Ned.
Other than sexually harass Ned.
That was at least more entertaining because it wasn't at least a 12-year-old.
Hey, friend, it goes both ways.
It goes both ways, but at least that was realistic. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just so mad. It was so dumb. Corky's existence didn't make sense, and I hated it. He could have been an actual high schooler and a potential love interest.
No.
No.
Why would we have that? That doesn't make sense.
And then she goes to a movie set to talk to someone about costumes from films, and she gets swept into being an extra, and then she directs the director, and the director threatens to quit, and the main actor is like, hey, you should direct the movie. And then they leave, and none of that comes up ever again because Nancy's perfect.
Nancy's perfect.
I always find it funny when movies that are clearly cheap and not doing their due diligence have a scene of some other movie being cheap and not doing their due diligence. So you'll notice a bunch of useless scenes have happened at this point. We haven't even gotten to the real mystery of when Nancy realizes that mysteriously dead, which, by the way, the type of murder that happened is kind of gruesome for Nancy Drew. Like, I get it, but whoa, that was a little surprising.
I don't remember what the murder is. How did she die?
She went missing.
Well, yeah, she went missing to have the baby, and then she came back, and did they drown her?
Yeah, she was throwing this house party, and she never came down to greet her guests, and then they found her in the pool, dead.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Which is way more interesting than this mystery actually is. Sadness. And so Nancy, instead of calling people, physically goes.
Use a telephone? Heaven forbid.
Carson's like, hey, Nancy, be a normal child. I'm going to make sure you're not sleuthing. But Nancy has plenty of time to use her expensive rental to drive to Nevada to go to a random spa and then drives to a local hospital and then goes around LA looking at all of these people. But Carson is clearly watching his daughter. So, of course, they get the death attempts, and him and Nancy are walking through a tunnel. It's a street, but it's a tunnel, and it's like, guys, I feel like you were asking for it. He wasn't trying to run you over. He was just trying to get through the tunnel. Okay. And then, of course, Nancy impresses Corky by having a Band-Aid.
A Band-Aid?
She doesn't even have Neosporin or alcohol wipes or anything useful. She has a Band-Aid, and so that's what prompts him to say, you're not like other girls, Nancy.
You're not like other girls, Nancy. I don't know. A lot of the girls that I know, I mean, they're not high schoolers, but almost all the girls that I know have a first aid kit in their bag, me included.
It's just safe.
So if I run out of Band-Aids, all I gotta do is talk to my friend, and she got a Band-Aid.
So Nancy also gets a threatening phone call, which she plays off because her dad's there, and her dad is none the wiser because he's stupid, and I hate him.
Parents, oblivious, am I right? Okay, so the bomb, right?
Yes.
The bomb that they just kind of threw into the back seat, the bomb they didn't even bother to try to hide, the bomb that had an audible beeping noise.
Oh my gosh, yes!
What sort of half bomb?
It's in the back. Okay. Suddenly she has her Corvette because Ned came up, and so Ned's here, blah, 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 blah. We're going to skip all the way to the bomb because the bomb's the most interesting thing. In the back seat of her convertible with the top down, which that's a great way for your car to get stolen, by the way. But top down, just sitting there, audible clicking. Nancy grabs it, runs to an open manhole.
It's not even clicking. It's an audible beep, an audible like, hey, I'm a bomb sound.
I don't know whether the point was to kill her or just blow up her car. I don't get the point of that because there's 10 seconds when they get out there. So they could have been in the shop for 10 more seconds. Anyway, she grabs the bomb, runs to an open manhole, throws it down. R.I.P. anyone in the manhole. We don't talk about that. Stuff blows up. Ned worries about her.
And she's untouched.
Yeah.
How did a bomb just go off?
Which I just kind of want to talk about all the extras who were in the scene when it blew up, but she's the only one that gets knocked to the ground. Everyone else is fine. At some point, the mean girl who showed up because Ned says this is so non-linear, and I feel like that was a description of the entire movie.
I love how in older books people can just get hit on the head and show signs of concussion and they just go about their lives.
Yep. And then, good thing the bad guys kept their rental car with noticeable damage and waited for the bomb to go off. That's not how this works, guys.
Sure it is.
Also, they're then allowed to leave.
Yeah.
No, the cops would be all over that.
What? No.
A bombing happened downtown. That's something they take very seriously.
We're clearly still in small town, middle of nowhere. Everybody knows Nancy. No one cares.
Also, they go to Chinatown and there's a store completely just about boxes.
Sure.
And then he allows all of these children to just open these precious antique boxes.
Sure, children, open the boxes. Why not?
And you know what the next scene is? Intense bomb scene, right? You know what the next scene is?
Is it her birthday party?
No. Nancy is painting
Yep.
a picture of Ned and Corky in revolutionary garb.
In the Corvette. Doing normal teenage things.
And Carson walks out, she's like, this is weird. And I'm like, yeah, this is weird.
You think? Get with the program, Carson.
And for some reason, this leads to Nancy being like, Ned, you have a wrinkly shirt. And Ned being like, well, I can't put things in my closet.
I mean, when they actually look at the closet, he can't put things in his closet. But I feel like if a closet was the shape that closet is, at some point you would be like, hey, person whose house I am staying in, why is this closet not a closet?
I don't know. Even if it was, if I owned that house and I was like, oh, this is so shallow, dumb, I would put nail hooks up. You can put shelving. Anyway, that leads to the secret passageway. So Ned's wrinkly shirt solves the mystery.
Of course.
I don't understand why Ned didn't go with Nancy, but no, can't have cute moments. Fine.
No, absolutely not. Why would we ever?
So she finds out that, guess what? It links to this apartment building that Lushings is staying in, and she befriends this old lady who's doing her laundry. I don't know. And then Nancy decides to invite the entire school to her birthday, and they all show up.
Plus extras, because party. I've never understood the want to have a party like that. That seems miserable.
Yeah.
Says the introvert.
That's fair. And it's a wild party. Oh no, they're getting the streamers. No alcohol.
None.
No drugs.
Nope.
They're just jumping up and grabbing screamers. Oh, and I think a vase gets broken, which I'm like, cool, Carson has to pay for that. That's not his. That's an antique vase. Cool, guys. We're just gonna brush over that.
Where's the weed, my guys? Where's the cigarettes?
And then Carson decides to be proud of Nancy for throwing this crazy party.
Yeah, she's being a normal teen.
It was normal. Your dad was invited to this. He was just late. It wasn't crazy. It wasn't, I don't know. Ned tries to surprise her with a really boring cake and somebody pushes it out of his hands.
I mean, she seemed to really like it before it was destroyed. She looked like she was very touched.
Yeah, and that was supposed to be like, oh, crazy party. But I feel like if that happened in real life, the dude would feel really bad. Oh, I'm sorry.
God, dude, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, bro.
Or at least be upset that he has cake all over himself.
For real. Oh, and the second CPR moment, which isn't actually CPR, they just go straight to the pin in the neck.
Oh my gosh. Yes, her friend is allergic to peanuts and she made out with a dude that ate a peanut butter cookie.
She has her EpiPen on her. There is no way she went to a raging party that was offering food with the chance of potentially getting infected by a peanut and not have her EpiPen on her.
If you're deathly allergic of anything, she would have her EpiPen. Even as a teenager, you would have your EpiPen on you because life or death.
Also, call 911! What are you doing?
Nancy doesn't even ask if she has her EpiPen. She just goes straight to cutting a hole in her throat.
And putting the straw in so that she can breathe.
By the way, that doesn't go away. Which the rest of the movie's like, oh yeah, we're totally chill with you because you've done this thing. No, she would permanently have that.
Yep.
That's cool. She just performs surgery at the crazy party. And then they call 911.
That's gonna be some lovely scarring later. That's pleasant.
Cutting open the trachea is permanent, guys. Anyway.
But Nancy has to save the day by doing something extra and over the top. Heaven forbid we think about the fact she just ruined this girl's life.
Yeah. And then the mean girls and her are best friends now, and they decide to go shopping, and then Nancy's the model, and I don't know. And then the movie decides, you know what? Ned has been too good a character. We need to get rid of him to make the movie worse. And then Carson's like, hey, I think you've been sleuthing, but Nancy gets out of it by doing a what tactic.
Yeah, because that's how we do.
That's how adults do. We just get confused and drop things.
Silly adults get so confused so easily.
And then I don't know what type of a lawyer Carson is,
Not a good one.
but he's in family law and then property law and then criminal stuff. I don't know what he is. I don't think they thought him through at all.
No, they did not.
Blah, blah, blah. Jane stuff. I'm skipping all the stuff with a daughter. It's good in the movie, and I guess that's why it's boring. Rachel Lee Cook is like one of the few really good actors, and she actually has good lines and stuff and crap. Except for the line where she's like, Nancy, I don't think you understand what it's like to not have a mom. And I was like, that was a dumb line. You really should have had the line of, Nancy, I don't think you understand what it's like to be a single mother.
Yeah, yep.
That would be accurate and the much harder thing than not having a mom. And then Nancy's like, oh, I don't have a mom. And she's like, no way.
Gasp, heaven forbid.
We're totally the same people. I hate it.
We are the same.
Blah, blah, blah. Skip, skip, skip. Carson is doing stuff with this lawyer dude that Nancy knows is related to the actress. And
It's sketchy.
Carson has no qualms with the fact that this lawyer dude knows his daughter by name.
Yeah, that's not weird.
Having read the book, though, I thought this was the part where Carson was going to get kidnapped. He's like, hey, Nancy, I'll see you for dinner. Going to talk to this guy. No. He gets kidnapped later, but no. For some reason, the actress decides to hide her will in a place that her character in a movie hid it. I don't get it. I don't get why she had the prop. I don't get her logic of that, of how anyone was supposed to find that. It was dumb. And it just lets Nancy find it. Whatever. Also, Jane is stupid because they watch the scene together and Nancy's like, oh my gosh, that's where the will is. And Jane's like, what are you talking about? I don't understand. What box? Jane, you just watched the scene too. Why are all adults stupid?
Because all adults are stupid, obviously, clearly.
This isn't even Nickelodeon.
Because all adults are stupid. Because it was the time of Nickelodeon. I know Nickelodeon is still a thing, but it was the time of Nickelodeon. Back when it was very popular.
Oh my gosh. Then the only good plot twist in the whole movie. Nancy gets a phone. She thinks it's from her dad. Turns out it's not from her dad and it's a tracker. I liked that.
Yeah, it's probably the only intelligent thing that the bad guys did, really.
Nancy gets kidnapped because she has the inability of watching where she walks while on her cell phone.
Heaven forbid.
She walks straight up to the car, basically.
Very clearly gets that from her father.
Oh my gosh. And then they go to an abandoned stage. I don't know what it was supposed to be, theater stage. And then she's just on top of a bunch of old marquee letters. And I'm just sitting there like, they had to drag her on top of that.
Yep.
They wouldn't have done, okay.
Nope.
It was a cool shot. I'm gonna give the cameraman props on this. It was a cool shot. Whatever. She attempts to escape on random scaffolding that exists. She has a pencil and thread and paperclip. I don't know. They realize she's not in the room. She decides to walk to a dead end and then gets surprised it's a dead end.
Gasp, it's a dead end.
The scene doesn't make sense. She runs away from them. So she gets away by jumping on a dump truck, which just so happens to allow her to get back to her car.
Yeah, because logic.
Oh, and that reminds me of a scene. Okay, this is gonna jump back. So after the bomb, they're chasing the guys, and Ned's like, hey, go faster than the speed limit. But Nancy's like, no, I'm not gonna go faster than the speed limit. I follow all the rules. And Ned's like, well, you're not following your dad's rules. And so Nancy decides to give up on the car chase because she has to be a nice girl who follows everybody else's rules. And I hated it.
That's not how logic works, because you're still not following your dad's rules, so I
hated it. That was the one point where Nancy could have had a moment of characteristics of sometimes it's okay to break the rules.
No.
Sometimes there are things you need to do that aren't following other people's rules.
Absolutely not.
You don't always have to be perfect. That's a perfect moment. No.
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 Remember, girls, you always have to obey men. This is important.
Obviously.
It's a life lesson.
So for some reason, she loses control of her car, and instead of the bad guys stopping to kidnap her again, they just leave.
Why?
Okay, so Nancy ended up in the hospital, and she finds out Carson isn't trying to punish her or push her away. He just wishes she would tell him things. You mean exactly what she was doing before until you were trying to force her to be something she wasn't, forcing her to lie to you? But no, she just wants communication. That was the problem.
You had that. You threw it away. Lovely parenting there, Carson, my friend.
Incapable of talking to his teenage daughter, as we saw from the what conversation. So she has to be the adult to tell her father things.
Parents, am I right?
Girls, you are always responsible for the men in your life, whether or not they're they're your parent or a 12-year-old child. You're responsible for them.
Hey, that's not toxic. Love me some toxic relationships to teach young women that toxic is hottest.
So the estate lawyer is offering Carson remote work so they can go back to River Heights, which I guess Carson's not helping Jane anymore.
Is that not already the plan, is to go back to River Heights?
I don't even know. See, this is what I'm saying. It sounds like when they're leaving, oh, I have a job I'm going to, and then we're going to come back to River Heights when it's done. But no, he's like went out there looking for, it's confusing. But yeah, he does that. He's like, we're going to move back to River Heights. So I guess he's not going to help Jane anymore because he was going to help get her child back. But whatever.
It's just a single mom with her kid that's lost custody for no reason.
Which, by the way, an estate lawyer, I don't think would have that. Even a famous wealthy one wouldn't have that much pull with CPS. Anyway, the lawyer decides to have the most suspicious signature ever, and Nancy solves the case, and then they get kidnapped, and then Nancy gets out of the car by tucking and rolling. Doesn't have to go to the hospital this time. I don't know why she had to go to the hospital for the car crash that wasn't.
She also didn't go to the hospital for the bomb?
Nope. And instead of calling the police, because as we've learned, LA police don't care about anyone because they don't care about a teenage girl misplacing her shoes. And the way it happened, Carson straight up gives this guy a motive. He signs is really suspicious. She's like, something your name. And Carson's like, yeah. Oh, by the way, if Jane does inherit everything, this guy's firm is gonna lose a lot of money. What do you mean we need to get out of the car? Carson.
Can you not be dumb for 3 seconds?
2 seconds!
For the love of God.
Anyway, bunch of chase scenes later, they end up back at the house. There was another kind of cool plot twist when you find out the estate owner, hey, does the estate owner have a apartment here? Which, why would he? But does he have an apartment here? And she's like, no.
He owns the building.
He owns the building. Oh, she does say he owns the mansion too.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so he owns the everything, apparently. He has a lot of property. A lot of things happen really quick. Anyway, the caretaker is the father of Jane. At some point, Nancy recorded what's-his-face, even though we didn't know she had a recorder. That would have been cool to know that was in her handy little kit.
Does she not mention that when she's talking to the bad guys at the very beginning of the movie?
Nope. Nope.
Gosh, why would it?
And somehow Nancy gets them stalled by like, hey, you can't kill me by shooting me because that would leave a mess. You can't stab me either because that would also, I don't know.
And?
If they dispose of the body and clean it, then it doesn't leave a mess. Thoughts?
Bleach, my friend.
And she also locks the secret passageway door, but Leshing still gets through it, so clearly the lock means nothing. I'm confused. Maybe adults do get confused really easily, because I'm very confused. Anyway, happy ending. Nancy's a fashion icon now. Leshing gets his relationship with Jane, the daughter. Jane gets Allie back as the daughter. She keeps the house and fires Barbara, and I guess that was a win. I don't know. I don't get the contempt for Barbara.
I don't know if it's necessarily content for Barbara as much as she's like, I'm going to keep the house. And Barbara's like, no, you should continue to rent it. And she's like, nah, I'm going to keep the house. Please stop trying to take my house from me. It's my house.
True, but in actuality, she would have to sell it because she wouldn't be able to afford the inheritance tax or the property taxes because she barely has a job.
It's ridiculous.
But we're gonna ignore that. She can totally keep this house and make an orphanage? Question mark? I don't know.
Sure.
Nancy continues to not keep her father informed, so clearly we've learned things. And he's totally fine with her mystery solving because now he's allowing her to go to Scotland for a mystery about the Loch Ness Monster and missing diamonds.
Yeah, really glad that movie didn't get made.
Also, Ned and Nancy kiss. I guess that was character development. No one develops. Also, can we talk about how bad the music is? There are several montages, and I just wish they hadn't. So yeah, moral of the story, don't be like other girls, because being like other girls is bad. Listen to every male and never make them feel bad about themselves, and put up with them sexually harassing you, because if you don't, you're not a nice girl.
Being not like other girls apparently means to be like other girls. The way that men want other girls to be.
I hate it so much.
I hate the patriarchy. I hate it. The patriarchy is just atrocious.
Yeah, this fake feminism BS movie, I hated it so much. So let's move on to the 2019 one. Now that we've been through that train wreck, I have significantly less things to say about the 2019 one. They modernize it, I think, really well. And I do think they actually give Nancy some character development, because she starts out as a senseless SJW, in the negative connotation of those words, of of just being a terrible person back because you feel motivated and not actually helping anyone. But they did a lot of cute things, and I feel like they had a lot of appreciation for the original book that the other one obviously didn't. Things like they made Hannah Carson's sister, which was actually kind of cute, because in the 2009 movie, they made Hannah German?
Yeah.
I don't know. So Nancy has Bess and George as her best friends, and then there's also, she becomes friends with Helen Corning, which I thought was really cute, because Helen Corning is the best friend in the first 3 books, and then Bess and George get invited, and I think Helen gets married. So she's off being a married woman, can't go mystery solving anymore. It was the 50s, I get it.
I enjoyed that they left a lot of the original book plot points and characters in the movie, even though they modernized it.
Yes.
They still have Willie Wharton in the movie, they still have a kidnapping and a hiding in the mansion, and they still have the hidden mansion rooms and the hauntings and the older woman that has to deal with the hauntings.
Yeah.
And the whole train stuff. There's a train debacle, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, it was really cool. Okay, full disclaimer. My notes for the beginning of the movie are a lot harsher than as we go along because I had just watched 2007 and I was in a really bad mood. So I went hard, and the beginning scene where it's her skateboarding.
The beginning scene is not the best, but the rest of the movie.
It was just the skateboarding because it was just egregious how many feet shots. And so you could tell this was their stunt double. And then every time the actual actress showed up, it was her head doing various movements.
Yes, I'm skateboarding. Yes.
And so at no point was like, wow, Nancy can skate. I was like, wow, impressive stunt double. I will say for this movie, I kind of enjoyed how the characters interacted with each other. It was weirdly realistic. And that actually took me by surprise because after watching 2007, where I wanted to scream at every person there, this was kind of nice. Like the dad and the sister are on opposite sides of a political thing, but they don't let that too much affect them. You can tell they have arguments about it, but they don't drag Nancy into it like responsible adults.
Yes.
So even when Nancy is having things with her dad, the sister is like, hey, Nancy, we need to talk about this.
I love that Hannah is a sister in this and not a housekeeper.
Yes.
I love that that's how they did that.
It feels more realistic.
It did. The wife died and he moved in with his sister to get out of the town that they were living in to get away from the memories of the dead wife. I love that.
Which, I don't know how much I feel about the whole Nancy, I lived in Chicago and it was fun and now I'm in River Heights and it's boring.
I think they were trying to do that whole teenager, you've uprooted me from the place that I know where all my friends are, and now I'm somewhere else.
Yeah. It was a creative choice. I don't vibe with it, but I don't think it's a bad thing either.
Yeah.
It allowed Nancy to be an outsider to the politics of the town. So as Nancy was introduced to it, we were introduced to it. It was a good mechanism in that term, but it also kind of leans pretty hardcore on the cliche that pretty popular rich people are terrible by default.
Yes, it very heavily does.
It doesn't development. It just expects you to already believe that pretty rich people are terrible. There's some moments, and I'm like,
I mean, she was dating trash, so I was fully willing to believe that she was not a great person.
She was absolutely dating trash.
I'm glad that she came to realize that she was dating trash.
Yeah, and my biggest qualms with the movie are some things revolving around Helen. And so first of all, I didn't like that. Also, I didn't understand why the prank had the dude turning blue.
Why not?
Because you have a super grounded movie otherwise than this magically turning someone blue. You didn't need to turn him blue. The whole prank was pointing out that he's a creep and a poser and a loser on the video.
Yeah.
Why did he need to be blue?
Because, I don't know.
That was the only thing where I was like, this is a super grounded movie and we have people magically turning blue. Okay, anyway.
Can I say my favorite part in the whole movie is when they're breaking into the school and Helen's like, pick the door. And Nancy's like, what, you think just because I'm a felon, I can pick doors? And she's like, oh, no, I'm sorry. And then Bess is like, are you gonna pick the door or not? And she's like, yeah, I'm gonna pick the door.
Yes.
I'm gonna pick the lock.
Yeah, that was cute. Like I said, I like their interactions. It's very teenage. I was actually impressed. But yes, at some point, either Bess or George is like, the way your brain works is so cool. And I was sitting there like, actually, I'm kind of terrified. Please don't move to my town.
Stay away. Stay far away.
Yeah. I mean, she's really cool and she gets better as time goes on. But just the fact of some of the stuff she was just able to do at a whim, I was like, okay, I'm actually concerned. Maybe the police should be worried about you. But yeah, I just didn't like, there was that scene where George was confronting Helen and it made it sound like George had a past with that family. She was poor and their family had done something bad that hurt them, but they were rich, so they got away with it. But we never get into that. There's never any grounding to that. It's just still the whole rich people are bad.
Yeah, rich people are bad.
And then at the end, George is just cool with Helen. There was something there. Ah! Sigh. My favorite thing is Flora.
Oh yeah, that is goals for when I'm old, is to be that eccentric.
Literally, when I was watching her, I was like, this is Lizzie.
It is. It's me. The flamingos and everything. I don't think I'd paint my yard pink, and I wouldn't have I'd definitely do the Christmas decorations. My house is definitely going to be lit like that all the time, but I wouldn't do the nutcrackers and the gnomes. The nutcrackers and gnomes creep me out, but otherwise, spot on.
Yeah.
I'm weird.
I know, I loved it. And then so the story in the book, the first movie apparently basically threw it out. The second movie we talked about just included elements. This is a retelling of the book. And in the book, the story is, these two brothers built colonial houses. I think this was just an old house. They don't say what type of house it is. I think it's Victorian. I don't know. But in the book, they're brothers. They built the house so they had the secret passageway so they could get to each other. And then their children had a falling out, so they never talked again. In the movie, the brothers built the houses. Then they both fell in love with the same woman.
Ooh, yeah.
And then one of them got the girl, and the brother killed them both and buried them in the walls, and then killed himself.
Yeah, that's legit. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Jeez. Holy crap. I mean, I guess it's more entertaining than what happened, but my goodness.
Yeah, that's legit. This checks out.
You know what's funny is I didn't take that many notes on this because I was actually enjoying the movie.
Same.
I was like, I just want to watch the movie. I don't want to make notes. I like Helen didn't trust Nancy, not only because of the things she did with her boyfriend, but she feels like Nancy has this reputation for just doing things for a laugh. That feels like a reputation Nancy could have potentially garnered for herself. I also like the whole police thing where she's sassing the police and the police are like, no, we do not trust you, hooligan. Yeah, that's also fair.
Yep.
So the police aren't taking Flora seriously, but the deputy is taking her seriously. So he goes out to check the yard and then gives her a flashlight. And I know that was supposed to be this really kind gesture to be like, oh, you believe in me. But all I could think of in that moment was that was your standard issue flashlight. The taxpayers are now having to pay to replace that.
Yep.
Because Nancy didn't have a flashlight. Sir, the taxpayers have a comment.
It's cute though.
It was very sweet. I like the deputy.
He cute.
I am glad they didn't make it inappropriate. I was a little worried that they would be like, oh, and then they fall in love. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
That is a deputy. He is in his mid-20s. That is a teenager. Please no. They didn't. Thank you.
Yes.
So I have very few notes and I'm just going to go through them. There's a point where Helen, during the haunting, they pull the chair back. Stand up. If ever your chair is getting pulled back, stand up. Don't let yourself get kidnapped. PSA.
Nah, gotta panic and stay seated.
Gotta be scary. During the George and Helen fight, George verbatim says she doesn't understand how someone could date someone who could, quote, embarrass another human being, end quote, like that's not exactly what she did earlier. Pot and kettle, George, pot and kettle. I get your point. He was doing this maliciously. There's also a point where Nancy, in the beginning, she's like, oh, psychologists are totally fine with this because sometimes bullies need to get bullied. That's restorative justice.
No,
that's not what restorative justice is. Restorative justice is when a victim is allowed to get their closure with a person that... Anyway, it's a process. It has nothing to do with bullying bullies. Stop throwing around psychology and criminal law stuff frivolously. Gosh, you really are made for Gen Z. Nancy picks a lock without having the sense to look around her first.
right?
Random jogger saw her. She broke into a house and then she got in trouble because Nancy didn't think to look at the street. And then at the very end, Bess makes a really big deal about this compound that Nancy has in the glass bottle. She's like, hey, just a little bit. It's a hallucinogenic that somebody has been putting in the AC, so they're all seeing ghosts and whatever, as well as some practical effects they're doing for the haunting. But she makes a huge deal. She's like, hey, if that breaks, that could kill everyone. So Nancy decides it's appropriate to
Have a grown man swallow a large amount of it.
yeah, the whole bottle. And so he starts tripping, but that should have killed him.
That should have killed him.
That actually should have killed him. And I know it's funny, like, haha, you dyed him pink. Someone earlier was dyed blue, haha. He should be dead.
He should be dead.
And then the ending. Like I said, most of the content of this was going to be the 2007 movie because the 2019 one was actually pretty decent. And if they wanted a sequel, I would not be mad. I'd actually go watch that in theaters. I had been avoiding it because I was worried it was going to be bad, but it's not. But at the end, they have to pull and not like other girls. I'm so sad. Because at the end, they're like, oh, we're going to solve another mystery, right? And Nancy's like, nah, I'm going to kick back, do Instagram, take care of my nails, normal girl stuff. And then she's like, nah, of course I'm not going to do that. First, Helen does that. She cares a lot about all of those things. That was kind of rude. She cares about all of those things. But second of all, why can't you do both? It's okay to do both. It's okay if you don't want to do both. But you don't need to hate on people because they wanted to do it. We were almost there. But on another point, the music was really good for this movie. Some of it was jamming. I would listen to the soundtrack. It was good and relevant, and I liked it. So those are all of my notes. I don't know what notes you have for the 2019, but that's basically all of my notes.
So my notes, as I do, are just thoughts that pop into my head. They're not as well thought out as yours. So in order, there's not a lot. Mine are good response, super cute. Hannah is a sister instead of a housekeeper, and I like that. Whoa, Willie Wharton is actually in this movie.
Oh, I didn't notice that. You're right.
I almost got murdered. The most exciting thing that has happened to me since we've been here.
Fair.
This is community service. We can't have music. Okay, big guy.
I loved when he was like, okay, anything but country. Because first of all, that feels like a Midwest thing to say, or small town in general thing to say, please not country. Because everything is country.
And then they play country.
But then it immediately goes into a country song, and I liked it. It was a good country song, first of all, but I also liked that. That was cute. Rebellion.
Yep. And then I love how excited she is. I would be just as excited. This house is dope. And then my last one is smidge. Love it. You think I'm crazy, don't you? Nah, just a smidge.
Just a smidge. I mean, honesty is best policy.
I love the response, though. She's like, I don't think just a smidge. Yeah, she does it with that big green on her face, too.
Yeah. And I like Nancy's character art. First of all, I think it's a good message for Gen Zers in general, who do seem to be very politically minded, but they're not quite adults, so they don't understand the complexity. And in some ways, fair, there shouldn't be complexity where there is, but there is. So it's just a good message, the fact that she's like, hey, I have skills that I could use. I could use them in the way I was using in the beginning of the movie, but that seemed to just cause harm. And I mean, it was funny, but she made an enemy with somebody, which that never really comes up, but she made an enemy with people, and while her friends feel good about it, it didn't really help Bess in the end to do that. It just kind of caused more harm than anything. And then at the end, she used her powers for good and solved the mystery and helped the lady. I don't know what's going to happen with the train. That never got resolved, but she was able to help someone and it actually caused good, and she made friends and good things happened because of it. And she's like, I want to continue to do the good things. And I was like, I like this. Use the spunk and the tenacity and the intelligence for good.
It's very good.
The character design was interesting. Emma Roberts is I think she's a natural brunette. She has blonde hair. She's had blonde hair for a long time, so I'm not completely sure which one it is. But she has long brown hair in the movie. In the original 1939, she has short blonde hair because Nancy was a blonde. At some point, they made a printer error on one of the covers, and so it looked red, and then she got turned into a redhead. And I think that was when the reprints happened. And so the 2019 movie is going with that she's a redhead. So she's got short, curly red hair. It's a cute look. I kind of wish Bess and George were more in it. I feel like Bess had a bit of a personality, but George's only personality trait is that she's angry. She gets mad at things, and that is what she does. She gets mad at things.
Yeah, she gets mad at things.
They put a lot of effort into the Nancy and Helen relationship, which is really good, and I think it pays off for the most part. I don't know. The ending was a little too cute, but okay. And like I said, they never go into why George hates Helen, so it feels superficial a little bit. But if they ever do it, they probably won't at this point, if they haven't announced one already.
No.
But if they ever did do a sequel, they could potentially dive into that and be like, so why do you hate Helen? Or they can make them all friends and then they can just continue on from there or whatever. That's fine too. That was the other thing. Helen made a big deal of, oh, I have to date Derek because it's expected of me. And then she broke up with him and nothing happened.
Yeah, he's out of town. I feel like the next movie should be like someone dies and it looks like Derek did it.
If this is a book series, that's exactly what would happen.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, that's all my thoughts. That's all your thoughts. We've reviewed 3 movies. Well,
sort of.
We talked about 3 movies. We reviewed 2 of them. Well, thank you so much for supporting us on Patreon. If you would like to support us further, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok at EWN_book club. We post fun book content, and you might get a sneak peek of what is coming up before we even announce it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I'm Sam Reiner.
And I'm Lizzie Sawyer.
And we hope to see you and a friend here next time.